Hey guys, it's Comic Central here, and today we're going to be doing the history of Spider-Man. This character has risen in popularity over the years, so what's a better time to make this video? Let's get into it. Spider-Man first appeared in Amazing Fantasy 15 of August 1962, and was created by little-known comic greats Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. Stan Lee discussed his ideas with artist and creator Jack Kirby about a character that would later be called Spider-Man. Stan Lee and Jack Kirby had already worked together many times before on themes such as the Fantastic Four. Jack Kirby designed Spider-Man and drew the first couple pages of the story. Stan Lee thought that Jack Kirby's design was too handsome and heroic, so Stan turned to Steve Ditko. Partnership made the Peter Parker that we know and love today. The character would have never been published as he was rejected multiple times, and if Stan Lee didn't print it without the higher-ups' consent, we never even would have gotten Spider-Man. The audience loved it, and this made Spider-Man popular and made him weave his way into our hearts today. Forest Hills in Queens, which is in New York, Midtown High School student named Peter Parker is a science genius that is living with his Uncle Ben and Aunt May. As it was originally depicted in Amazing Fantasy, Peter is bitten by a radioactive spider, though it was called an insect in the panel that it happened in. This event happened at a science exhibit and gave Peter the agility and proportionate strength and speed of a spider. Along with his super strength, he gained the ability to stick to walls and ceilings. Because Peter had an advanced knowledge of science, he developed an adhesive webbing of his own design that he could shoot out through small, wrist-mounted launchers. Peter originally intended to express his new powers and abilities, so he dons a costume and becomes Spider-Man, as a novelty TV star. Peter fails to stop a thief as he escapes with money after he gets frustrated and about being pushed around all the time and tells the policeman that it is his job and not his own. This small event catches up with him as that very criminal later kills Uncle Ben. After this happens, Peter tracks down and subdues the killer and finally learns that with great power comes great responsibility. A quote that is largely attributed to Uncle Ben but is never actually said by anyone in Amazing Fantasy 15, so that's a nice little pointless fun fact that I know. Despite all the amazing, pun intended, superpowers that Spider-Man possesses, Peter still struggles to help out his now widowed Aunt May pay rent. Peter is also taunted by his peers, mostly by a football jock named Flash Thompson. As Spider-Man, Peter is harassed by the newspaper editor J. Jonah Jameson. As Spider-Man battles his enemies for the first time, Peter finds it increasingly difficult to juggle his personal life and his costumed adventures. After a while, Peter graduates from high school and enrolls at the Empire State University. This university, of course, is fictional, but it does share similar characteristics to Columbia University and New York University. Here, Peter meets his roommate and his best friend, Harry Osborn. He also meets his first girlfriend, Gwen Stacy, here as well. Aunt May also introduces him to Mary Jane at this point. While Peter deals with Harry's drug problems and Harry's father is revealed with the Green Goblin, Peter gives up the Spider-Man mantle for a while. Gwen Stacy's father, who is the New York City Police Detective Captain, George Stacy, is accidentally killed during a battle between Spider-Man and the infamous Spider-Man villain, Dr. Octopus, or Doc Ock for short. This event happens in The Amazing Spider-Man issue 90 of November 1970. In issue 121 of The Amazing Spider-Man, Green Goblin throws Gwen Stacy off a tower from the Brooklyn Bridge as it is shown in the art, but is called the George Washington Bridge in the text. Gwen Stacy dies during Spider-Man's rescue attempt. It should be noted that the whiplash effect killed Gwen Stacy and not the fall. This happened because she was stopped so suddenly by Spider-Man's webbing. In the next issue, Green Goblin seemingly kills himself accidentally in the next battle with Spider-Man. Peter works his way through his grief and eventually develops feelings for Mary Jane Watson, and the two became confidants rather than lovers. A romantic relationship does end up developing, and Peter proposed to her in The Amazing Spider-Man issue 182 in July of 1978. Peter is then turned down just an issue later. Peter goes on to graduate from college in The Amazing Spider-Man issue 185 and becomes involved with the shy Deborah Whiteman. Peter also becomes involved with a costumed thief known as the Black Cat, who he met in The Amazing Spider-Man issue 184 in July of 1979. Then on, from 1984 to 1988, Spider-Man wore a black costume with a white spider on it. This new costume came from a Secret Wars limited series and came from an alien planet where Spider-Man participated in a battle between Earth's mightiest superheroes and villains. Spider-Man continued to wear the suit after he got back and started wearing it in the Amazing Spider-Man issue 252. The change to the character's costume was met with some backlash though. Some people said that the old costume was iconic and should be brought back, and his old costume was on par with the traditional costumes of Superman and Batman. The creators then finally revealed the costume was only an alien symbiote which Spider-Man was able to reject after a big struggle. The symbiote does return to haunt Spider-Man and to seek revenge on him in the form of Venom though. Peter then proposes to Mary Jane Watson a second time in The Amazing Spider-Man issue 290 in July of 1987. She then accepts 2 issues later, and the wedding took place in the 21st annual of the series. This event prompted a real-life mock wedding that used models. This mock wedding included Tara Shannon as Mary Jane Watson. Stan Lee acted as the official at the event in Shea Stadium held on June 5th, 1987. The writer who made his script based on the plot of the editor-in-chief said that he thinks they should have never have gotten married and originally had a different idea for the story that wasn't used. In a most hated storyline called the Clone Saga, Peter becomes convinced that Ben Reilly, the Scarlet Spider, who is a clone of Peter, created by his college professor Miles Warren, is the real Peter Parker and he is but a clone. Peter gives up the Spider-Man identity to Ben for a time until he is killed by the returning Green Goblin and is revealed to be a clone after all. In story arcs written in 2005 and 2006, such as The Other, Spider-Man gains more spider abilities such as biological web shooters, something that we've seen in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy, and toxic stingers that extended from his forearms. Peter also got the abilities of able to stick people to his back, which is a terrible ability if you ask me. Enhanced spider sense and night vision and increased strength and speed were also added to the web slinger's arsenal. All things he could have lived without if you ask me. Peter becomes a part of the New Avengers and reveals his secret identity to the world in the Civil War story arc. Because Peter did this, it added to his already many problems. During the Civil War, Peter also got the Iron Spider suit, and he also switched sides halfway through to Captain America's team instead of Team Iron Man. Yay, Team Cap is much better than Team Iron Man as well. A choice that nearly killed him if it wasn't for the Punisher. His marriage to Mary Jane and his public unmasking were later erased in another widely disliked storyline called One More Day. In a deal with the devil, or in this case, with the demon called Mephisto, several adjustments are made to the timeline, including the resurrection of Harry Osborn and the return of Spider-Man's traditional tools and powers. Following this soft reboot of Spider-Man, Peter's identity was no longer known to the general public, but it was revealed to other superheroes and other people that have deduced it. Aunt May ends up marrying J. Jonah Jameson's father, named J. Jameson. Peter becomes an employee of the think tank Horizon Labs. In issue 700 of The Amazing Spider-Man, the dying villain, Dr. Octopus, swaps bodies with Peter, who remains as a presence in Dr. Octopus's mind. This event triggered a 2-year storyline in the series called The Superior Spider-Man, in which Peter Parker was absent and Dr. Octopus was in Peter's mind. Peter does end up eventually getting control of his body once again though, and because of this, The Amazing Spider-Man was relaunched in April of 2014. And in this relaunch, Peter became a billionaire after the creation of Parker Industries. In December of 2014, after the death of Wolverine comic, Spider-Man became the new headmaster for the Jean Grey School and began appearing more often in X-Men comics. Spider-Man even went as far as taking the role of Wolverine in the comic series called Wolverine and the X-Men. So I guess that's not what we should call the series anymore. We should probably call it Spider-Man and the X-Men. No, actually, let's not. Doesn't have the same ring to it at all. Because Peter was bit by a radioactive spider, he is granted superpowers. In the original stories, he was able to cling to walls, had super strength, speed, and agility, spider sense that alerted him to danger, perfect balance, and equilibrium. Equilibrium, if you're wondering, means a state in which opposing forces or influences are balanced. The character was originally depicted as being intellectually gifted, but he is now being depicted as having a genius-level intellect by many writers. Peter is intellectually brilliant and is an expert in the fields of applied science, chemistry, physics, biology, engineering, mathematics, and mechanics. Because of this, Peter sewn his own costume to hide his secret identity and makes many devices that complement his powers, most famously web shooters to help swing through the city of New York and trap his enemies. Peter has also made a spider signal flashlight, something that we see in the Civil War movie, and he has also made a warning beacon to criminals as well. Spider-Man has also had many appearances in various forms of media, such as in video games, TV shows, and movies. He is presently in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, played by Tom Holland. He is also played by Andrew Garfield in the Amazing Spider-Man series and by Tobey Maguire in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy. Spider-Man has also appeared in cartoon and in TV series such as The Spectacular Spider-Man and the Spider-Man TV show of the 90s. Spider-Man has also appeared in many video games such as the Ultimate Alliance series, Spider-Man Friend or Foe, and more recently in Spider-Man PS4. And with that said, that just about does it for this video. Hope you guys did like this video. If you did, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And with that said, I'll see you guys next video. Bye.